Cody. Welcome to this sacred conversation with Megan Anderson. I'm really excited. It's really interesting when you meet new people come into your life through the most unexpected ways, and you just have this immediate connection. And that's what I felt I had with Megan. So I'm Chantal, and I realize often that I keep forgetting to introduce myself, that people assume who I am. So I've done all these videos and all these sacred conversations without it saying who I am. And I'm a holistic counselor, and I also support women in business through trauma, because this is something we're not talking about much. And this is what I love about Megan. I'm going to read it out, so make sure I get it correct. Fellow podcast host, she does Follow Rising. And what I love about Megan is, and that's what she interviewed me, she created the space to be able to talk about her own healing journey and others, because often we don't talk about that, do we, Megan? We stay hidden.
Yep.
And it takes courage to step out, which is what you have done. And she's also a supporter of small businesses, because she did have her own. I don't know if you had how many you had, but we'll come back into that. But now what I'm loving is, she says, the business of homemaking. I love it. She's loving being at home and supportive. And I'll now hand over to Megan to get started about her journey.
Yes. Oh, all about the journey. Yeah, no, currently I am doing the podcast. It is definitely my passion project. I think I was realizing just last week as I was doing it, that I have the pleasure of talking to at least one, if not two, amazing, thriving humans just like me every single week from all over the world. Because I'm from the States. So I'm, and you're obviously, you're in tomorrow. I always love that about my Australian guests. You're in the future for me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I do. I love where I'm at. We talk a lot about on my show, it's a journey, that healing journey, and it's not, I don't know. It's not the same for everyone. There are commonalities for everyone. But it's just such an enrichment to be able to, not only for myself, to be able to talk to it, because a lot of my own past, when it comes to traumas, I say with a chuckle, and I probably shouldn't, that there's probably not a trauma that exists that I haven't experienced personally, other than, I think, being shot, which I think is terrible to say, but it's like, no, really, like, it's just that's my path. And that's, I think, gives me a unique perspective on being able to talk to people, because I can open up and people do. I'll have people at my house, and all of a sudden they'll just be talking about childhood traumas, and they're like, why did I feel comfortable sharing with you? I'm like, that's who I am. That's part of my purpose and part of my why, is that I'm the human that can hold space for things that, as you said, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about where we came from, or if we do, we talk about it in little snippets of, it happened. But, I think it's important to give it voice, but not as a commiseration, not as I'm still in a victim state, but as in a celebration of, I'm healing, I'm moving forward in life and doing, as you said, amazing things. My dogs, they barked last time too.
They did.
I have 3 lovely dogs. They are my delight and my love. They keep me comforted all day long. Like you said, my husband lovingly teases that I'm a domestic engineer. I'm a homemaker, but love that.
Love it.
I love to bake, and I love to cook, and I garden in the summers. And right now I was sharing with you, we are doing a pantry refresh project, which is like heaven for me, because I actually get a real pantry instead of a closet. It's just the things that I never had before, things I always wanted my whole life, that actually are manifested and actually in my real existence now. I love that.
I love, and oh my God, there's so many things here that have just been highlighted, like VIP to give it a voice. Absolutely agree with you. And it's how we give the voice. And something I say also to people is, some people don't want to do it like us publicly in this way, but it might be enough to put it in your journal, or see a therapist, or have a trusted person, because once you voice it, it somehow seems to you know, I don't know, just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it takes a while to find that voice. And the other one I really love is celebration of healing.
Yep. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
celebration of healing.
That's a big piece of where I'm at right now. You know, I recently, well, a few months ago, got remarried. So it's interesting you introduced me as Megan Anderson, which is fine because that's still out there, but it's actually Rodriguez now, which is a beautiful thing. But there's something beautiful about this healing piece of changing my name.
Okay.
So see, Anderson was my maiden name. That holds all kinds of childhood traumas. That holds all kinds of,
yes.
And then I was a different name, which is my dead name now, so I actually don't say it. But it was a different name for a long time. And I thought, oh, I'm in my 40s. Do I really want to change my name? I thought, you know what? Yeah. I don't want my abuser's name anymore. I don't want to hold, even though it's my son has the name and that's his name and it's his choice to keep it. I'm like, I don't have to. And just celebrate that. And every time something comes up, like, oh, today it was something little, you know, you go log in online somewhere and all of a sudden you see, oh, that's the wrong last name. You go change it. It's like, oh, I could change it again. Hi, I'm somebody different.
Love
Just
it.
those little things that get, you know, or celebrating something shows up like it always does, right? You get triggered and all of a sudden you realize I am handling that so much better than I used to. Oh, I am triggered. I'm still, oh, okay, it's still here. And, I moved through that space really fast. And I actually, you know, was kind to myself. I didn't beat myself up. And all of those beautiful noticings that I think that's what I love about the healing journey, and talking to my guests too, talking to you, talking to others who are like, there's, you know, there's things that we do. There's the journaling and the meditation and you know, different therapies that everybody, you know, tries. But I think the best part is just those personal, look at me. I'm doing so much better than I used to be. And that's for me where the celebration really comes in, is just that opening of the space.
It is. And I love it because, again, it's so easy to compare yourself with someone else. Oh, it's not as bad as, or they're further ahead, or why have I come back and why have I triggered? Because I don't, so I'm just coming through another bout of depression. We talked, and I sort of went from this to this that fast. And it was really interesting. It's been about 4 or 5, 6 weeks now. But again, like you're saying, like, it's great. I realized I was triggered. It was really painful. I did, for a moment, go into that shame. How did I end up here again? Yet, like you said, I'm handling it better, because when you have the support in place already, as you said, and then I'm coming out of it quicker. Because also you're not resisting. We're just going, I went with it. It was horrible sitting in it, isn't it? You know?
That is so, yeah, no, last night, let's see, I think I'm going on about 2 hours of sleep, because last night woke up, all kinds of stuff just started coming up. And normally I would just like try and lay in bed and be like, no, you have to go to sleep. And last night I was just like, just get up, like, just, what do you need? And just really realized what I needed. And a lot of times I'll resist, you know, like, I needed to check out. I needed to get on, and I don't do this very often, but go down the scroll hole, watch a couple videos, play some games. Like, literally my brain was like, could we please just not ruminate? And I'm like, yeah, okay. You have permission to not ruminate right now. We're not going to do it forever. And we didn't, but no, you have permission. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't need to be doing the dishes or writing or, you know, you go ahead, have permission. Nobody else is around. It's that little stuff where you're just like, oh, okay. Yep. I'm in it. Oh, and giving yourself permission to say, I'm in it and it sucks.
Yes, that's it. I am in it, and exactly right. Because I did like you. I'm doing like you. And I know, just you brought back something I used to do years ago. When I, like you, in that space, I would give myself 48 hours at that point, because I was in the real mess. So, okay, for 48 hours, I'm going to be in it. And ironically, it worked, because it was like, oh, I don't like being in here. Because then you really feel it and you realize how much it's affecting your life. Then you go, right, I now need to change. But I agree with you. It's about giving yourself permission. I'm in it and it sucks, you know?
Yeah, that's part of it is, and yeah, there's something different of, you know, and we all start in this space too. So for anybody who's listening, who's, especially if you are either still in your situation or just really newly out of it, there's something to the way we start to talk about it is almost chronologically. He did this and he did that, and then he did this, and then I can't remember it all, but there was this thing, and then there was that, and you know, he kept me in a room for 5 hours and screamed at me. That was the last day of him being with me, right? For me. And it was like, and we talk, but but you don't, again, if you stay in that space and call it healing, it's not.
That's right.
I had to learn that. I was like, oh no, I'm telling that story again. I've told that story. Okay. But it's that, oh, nope, it's okay that that's how, and then all of a sudden, like we talked about my podcast. So I'm in my second season, but when my podcast started, I went and looked at early episodes. That's how we were talking. That was the guests I was manifesting, were the people who were shortly after it and were just like, let's talk about the trauma. Okay. And now second season is like, let's talk about the healing. Let's talk, because that's where I am.
Yes, that's
let's,
right.
Let's talk about what's coming up now. And it's stages. And again, and you'll drop back into it. It's okay.
That's exactly right. It is okay. And it was interesting because now that I'm writing my memoir, I decided to go back and see, she's a psychologist, but also now my supervisor. And I said to her, please tell me, what was I like when I first went in after the car accident, when I triggered into that complex PTSD? Because I really have not much memory of that. And this is nearly 15 years ago, actually in a few weeks' time. But what she said was, for those first couple of years at least, I needed to simply talk. Like you said, I needed to talk. I needed to just make sense of it. So she knew how to hold me, because she also knew if she pushed me, I would have walked out that door, not come back, and I would have stayed in it. I mean, that's my words of how, and it was like, oh my God. But she actually explained to me I had disconnected so much. I was so out of my body and so far away that I just needed to keep talking. And then slowly, as you said, it changed. Now I can talk about it more as a fact rather than in it.
Yeah. And exactly. Like it was something that was, not is.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I was 38 when I left an 18-year marriage, and I had childhood trauma. So I say I really didn't start healing till like 39 or 40. And I'm going to be 43. So it's only been a few years for me. But yeah, that learning to talk about it, opening, just, okay, giving it voice. There's something so powerful about giving it voice.
Yes,
you know,
I agree.
Just, and like your psychiatrist, you know, here, just, okay, I will receive those stories. I kind of sometimes feel bad for my husband, but he had done so much personal work himself before he met me that, like, I would tell him stories and he would just look at me and I'm like, what? And he goes, you have to stop. And I'm like, what? He goes, like, he couldn't talk. Like, he was like, he would never say you're making me sad or you're putting too much on me, but it was always, I am so sad that you had to go through that. And to me, I was like, what are you talking about? It's just my life. And then he would say it back to me and I would hear someone else telling me my story. And I was like, oh, I went through that. Oh, wow. Huh. And that just, for like the first year we were together, that's how it was. And now, you know, sometimes he will tell me, he's like, okay, you're repeating. And then I know, oh, wait, okay, this is something to let go. I'm repeating again. But yeah, just that freedom to speak.
Is that, and I really like that. That really touched me, that he was able to hold you in that space. And in a way, he's doing to you as my psychologist was doing to me. It's like you said, reflecting back, because sometimes you begin to wonder, was it really that bad, or was I really out of there, or, you know, when someone comes back. So I needed that validation.
Oh yeah,
at that point to say, you know, you were bad. It was bad.
Yeah. No, he said that, my husband said that to me early on. He goes, I look forward to the day when you validate yourself, but until then, I will, you know, I will give you validation that yes, no, you are not crazy to think that that was terrible. That's horrible. And a lot of times now I'll put in the perspective of, is that something that I would ever do to a human? Heck no. There's an episode I don't know, several episodes ago, that I released on my podcast, where a lady and I were talking about the first 72 hours after we left our exes. That is not something I would wish on any human being, including the man that did it to me. And I tried to explain it to my husband. I said, every feeling that I never allowed myself to feel for 18 years just got permission to be felt. And it was like, just like your car wreck. Bam! We are now in it. Reality. Yes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm glad I get glad that I was smart enough to have my child like with my parents at the time. But if I didn't have a dog, if I didn't have my baby to take care of, and she needed me, it was like it created this routine in those first days. But that gets so much easier. And I always tell people that it gets easier, it gets lighter. But then there's days when it's not, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it not being okay.
That's exactly right. And it is that first step, isn't it? It's that looking back now, and even like coming out of the depression, or the first step was, it was really interesting. I always know it's my late father's voice. I was sitting quietly in the morning because my partner was away, and I was doing and it came to me very clearly, you are depressed. I was like, oh. And, and it was like, then I went, actually, I am. So it's like, and then I gave myself permission to no longer resist and to go, oh, this is what it is. Yeah, I am depressed. Okay. Like you said, now what? And as you said, it takes time, it takes, but again, coming back to what you're saying in those first, in my case, first period of time, like you said, 72 hours or however long it is. And in my case, we can't really compare, but it's, because for me it took years to, but again, it's how do we, as you said, how can I say this? Like in that time, I had no clue what was happening. So I still couldn't give myself permission to be there. That's the other thing, it's like so lost and confused. And like you said, where did this person go? Who was this to now this?
Yeah. And I've had other guests like you that talk about how a car accident is what brought up the childhood trauma. Like it was a PT incident, single incident. So for me, I always look at it, like you said, absolutely never compare traumas, because traumas are so personal and so individual. But I think because the way that I ended leaving my marriage, it was like a 6-month period. So I knew it was coming. Right. So I had that anticipation. So when stuff would come up, I'd be like, the day, you just put it over there. When you get to deal with that. There is a date. There is a time. It is solid on the calendar. This is the day. And until then, you have to get through. And so for me, it was this building up. And then it was just like floodgates open, like absolutely. I haven't talked to my ex in nearly 2 years now.
Yeah.
Thank God. But I remember the last time I did talk to him, and he was like, why doesn't my son want to talk to me? What are you telling him? What are you doing? I said, I don't have to tell him anything. He lives in a teeny tiny apartment where you beat his mother. What do you think he's going to do? My ex's response was, I beat you? ? And I just went, yeah, that's why he doesn't want to talk to you. And that was it. Like, I didn't need resolve of him to acknowledge it. I needed resolve to me to be able to say it out loud to him and be like, yeah, no, it happened. We're not going to play pretend anymore. We are not.
Oh my God. This is it. This is exactly it, because this is what we are taught. I know from childhood taught, we are taught to pretend, mask, your fault, it didn't really happen. That's right. So to untangle all that, like you said, and then to have the courage, like you said, the courage to go, actually, no, you did that. Wow. Because often we don't do that. See, my father died unexpectedly when I was 36, before I had the chance to go back. Now, of course, I'm doing it this way, but I didn't have the chance to go back. And even looking back now, how long would it actually have taken me to have actually said to him, I don't know if I could have, because the fear was so great, even into adulthood.
Oh, yeah. My mother, I went no contact with my mother, who's my first abuser. No. And to me, because narcissistic abuse is one of those things that's how my mom was, that it's just like telling my ex that he beat me. That was like, go ahead, deny it. I don't care. I know. But to a narcissist, it's like, I could tell you that till you're blue in the face and you don't know, because you don't know. And so it's just that thing. And that the only way that I could tell my mom was just to repeatedly And I had left I'd left an email unblocked. And just recently she messaged me. It was just this, let me pull you back in. I'm sad. And I'm just like, I just blocked the email. I just blocked her. I'm like, I am done. Like, if you cannot respect my hard, and I did put a hard boundary. Like, I told her flat out, I do not want to talk to you anymore. Never respected it, nor is she going to.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So people like that, it's hard because you're like, there is no resolve.
No.
But putting up that boundary and enforcing that boundary, that's your validation and that's your resolve. That's your, nope.
Exactly. That's right. No, I was going to say that is your resolve, because ultimately what I found for me was, particularly going through the car accident when I had to do the legal side, and, you know, the opposition were trying to say I wasn't that badly hurt, blah, 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 blah. And by the second mediation, I walked in going, no matter what I get or don't get, I know my truth. So this is coming back to, I know my truth. I know how much this has actually turned my life upside down. And I think then, therefore, whatever happened after that. So that was my learning from that, from between the first one to the second one, was 4.5 months. It was so stressful, but yeah. So like you, and then you can go, no, and something like, because my mum's a narcissist too, and I'm going to talk about it one day too, like you. But once you understand that they are a breed in themselves, they are, you've got to then walk, as you said, this is me. They're never going to get it. And like you said, they just reel you back in, and suddenly you go, here I am again.
Oh, yeah, it's funny, before I podcasted, I never listened to podcasts, but now, of course, I'm a consumer of podcasts. So recently I was listening to Dr. Ramani is her name. And she was on someone else's podcast, but she did the whole cycle. Like, she got a whiteboard and did the cycle of it. And she goes, there's this part where it's she calls it hoovering, like vacuuming, hoovering back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's like, you know, the love bombing at the beginning, and you think about parents, they love bombed you. Yeah. Before you even had the ability to know that's what was happening. Yes. You were an infant. And then the hoovering was your whole life. And then you get to adulthood, and I'm just like, you know, and I read my mother's email again and again and again from the perspective of, oh, maybe she's changed. And that was a little girl. And I went, honey, I love that you are sweet, and I love that you care, and I love that you love your mom. And I'm going to be your mom right now and say, no, you know better. We are not going to step back into that, because you know where that goes. And it's nowhere that you're going to take that phone call. You're going to go sit at that restaurant. You're going to go have that conversation, and just, nope. Yeah. So boundaries are that thing for narcissistic abuse, you know, and I mean, I don't know, physical abuse isn't much different. Like it really, there's more body healing. That's the thing for the physical part. Like, that's where I'm at right now, is that I'm at this stage where my body remembers everything, but my trauma brain has absolutely, like you said with your car wreck, I can tell you things happen. I know they did, but my body's like, oh, there is so much you don't remember, but I do. I remember it. And there's this happening right now where it's like something I'm actually actively seeking. And I keep saying it out loud because I know it's going to bring the right human to me. A different, you know, I do a lot of alternative healings. I think a lot of us have tried that. And I'm just at that stage where I'm like, I need someone that's that spiritual and trauma healing type of human. And a lot of us end up with people like that, because it's just like, there's this piece of me that has been so disconnected for so long that I know it's there. That was this morning. And I'm just like, I know it's there, and I'm acknowledging you, but I don't know how to handle it yet. So we're just going to say you're there, and we're going to be there. And I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think sometimes you say, what I needed to learn too is that I didn't need to know what was going on. Like, it was going on because we learn to overthink, overanalyze. So we do that through trauma, but also through our society, that masculine way of thinking. We've got to be here. And now I'm understanding what the word embodiment means more. So like it's going from, for me, it was called knowledge to knowing. Like, you get it here, but it's how do I go and stay in my body and feel safe in my body, and find someone to make me feel safe to be able to do that. So now you know your triggers. That's right. And coming back to something you're saying about physical abuse versus like emotional narcissism, for me, physical was like it's there, like you can see it, it's happened. Whereas the other, I learned this years ago, mind fucking. They know how to screw your mind, and that's for me was a lot harder to.
So much harder.
Yeah,
so much harder to process, so much harder to accept.
That's right.
But Dr. Ramani calls it radical acceptance. And I'm a very energetic human. She doesn't do this big, but she's like, you have to. I mean, in this podcast, she's just like, you have to accept it. It's not that big for her because she's not as energetic as me, but it's like radical acceptance is like the sun rises in the east. It just is. Narcissists, they are what they are and they will not change. So if you either let them, like, cut them off completely and just no more, or you just accept it and keep moving on with your life and be like, I am going to engage with you as little as possible. Because I know for some, that's psychological, what you're saying. So the end of my marriage, while there was so much physical violence, the end of it had gotten to where it was all mental, emotional, verbal. Like I said, it was like the last week, he cornered me in our bedroom and I lost track of time, but it was somewhere between 9 and 10 hours. I'm not joking, of verbal beratement. A lot of repeating. Again, I lost track of time. I don't remember most of it. I was just at that point in time, I remember wishing, would you please just hit me and get this over with so we could just be done?
Yeah.
Because again, I just gotten to that stage where I'm like, the bruise is going to heal, but this, I don't want this anymore. Like you are literally leaving next week. I am done. I'm done. He just had to get one more. And that part for me was just like, yeah, that mental, emotional stuff. I think that mind fuck, as you said, was so much harder to wrap my brain around. Because again, I would never do that to somebody. So it's hard to understand how you could take, but again, we beat ourselves up. I know you know what I'm talking about. All of the stuff that we do here, they do here. They just take it out and put it on you. And that's what I think is so hard for us is we're like,
yes,
I would never do that to you. You're doing it to me. And I don't know, but it is possible. That's the other thing I always tell people is healing is always possible. No matter what they did, that's theirs to deal with. You get away, you move on, you move forward. There is so much life. There's so much happiness. There's so much joy. There's so much that you can't even see beyond where they are.
That's right. And I think that's a really good point because healing is possible. I think and there is so much more life to be on. That's why I'm going to say but that's why I do what I do, is to show women, because when you, like you said, you're in it, you cannot see healing is possible. There's so much more life. You go, really? Even when I was just in this deep depression and I was thinking I didn't want to wake up and I couldn't see a future, if you'd said that to me a few weeks ago, I would have just looked at you and gone, you've got to be kidding. But so that's why these conversations become even more powerful, because it's showing women, here we are, and we are giving voice to what happened. So then you can then start going, okay, it's possible for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that. I think that's the most important thing is that, how other people heal, how other people's journeys look isn't going to look exactly the same. That's why oftentimes people are like, tell me exactly what you did. And I'm like, I don't know. I arrived. I can tell you some of the things that work for me.
Yes,
but then
that's it. Yes.
Some of the things that used to work don't work anymore. And some of the things I haven't even tried that I don't even know exist and haven't come to my knowing yet, they're going to uncover and do different healing. And so that's why I just tell people, don't ever look for I'm healed as a destination, because that's actually going to keep you stuck longer than I am healing. It is beautiful. I'm grateful for it. I'm moving through it. Oh, today's a grieving day. Today's a depression day. Oh, we're going to have a depression week. Okay. Oh, look, I'm coming out of it. Oh yeah, life's out here. Okay. And you just have to learn. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about healing is what we're actually doing is learning what we never learned as kids, which is to process our own emotions, to
Yes.
accept them, to love on them, to, somebody I used to follow years ago talked about how emotions are just information. They're not good,
Yes, that's
bad,
right.
they just are. And experiencing that as in its fullness and just being allowed to go, oh, this is what it is. And labeling helps. That's that verbal, oh, I'm depressed. And when you finally said it out loud, even though it took you a while to move through it, I'm sure the hardest part was going, oh, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I'm depressed. I'm okay. I've been here before. I know how to do this. And this is where I'm at.
This is
That
it.
labeling and accepting it wherever you are in the present is
And I
huge.
like that because, again, what I noticed, and I've decided to write some posts about what depression is, how to support yourself, what to say, not to say, because I realized despite all the talk that we have, people still didn't get it. Like you said, and we still want to whitewash it. We still want to give platitudes. We still want to try and fix someone, or, oh, but you had a good day yesterday, so why are you feeling this today? Oh, but you look well, you look well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So again, we
You look
minimize. So society minimizes the experience, and then you minimize it yourself. So there's this double whammy, And when I had the courage, I actually started putting posts on Facebook about it. So I thought we need to. This is what happens behind. There was suicide ideation. I didn't want to wake up. I couldn't see the future. I felt hopeless, useless, everything else. And it's frightening when you're there. But if we don't talk about that and say to people, this is actually what happens, it can really mess with your mind.
Yeah. I think it's almost worse to sit and ruminate on it. I did for
That's
a long
right.
time. I no longer do this. I do have a TikTok channel, but I don't post on it anymore because it served its short-lived purpose.
Yeah.
And then it became damaging to me, not
Yes.
the content, but that's what it was, is I just needed, and it wasn't about who saw it, and it wasn't about the comments. It wasn't about any of it. It was just, and some days I'd sit and I would cry, and some days I would scream, and some days I would just give, oh, today's a good day, and here's here's what I'm learning. But I had to move through that space. And what's interesting is all of those videos are, TikTok saves them to your phone automatically. So I recently was like going through looking for pictures and all these videos, and I'm like, I did a thing. What was so interesting, or you're posting on Facebook and then the memories pop up and you're like, I got through a thing. But it was so interesting for me to see it and go, no, I don't have a need to go back to that. It served its purpose. Like I'm not,
That's it.
like just, it did its thing, but wow, I did a thing. Yeah.
You did. And this is what comes back to what you said, a celebration of healing. That's what you said in the beginning.
Yep.
And then you can either choose to keep it or delete it, because that's what I love about Facebook memories. I go, oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And sometimes I go, oh, wow, did I do that? Because when you're such a state, you don't some of the things you don't realize, or you blank them out, or there's too much to. And I go, oh, did I really do that? Oh, wow. Yeah. And that's also the positive, the fun sides, knowing that you had those moments of joy in amongst all that, because sometimes it can feel like, this whole, your life has been this.
Yep. Yeah. It can feel like a big, heavy, just that yoke, that big heaviness that is like, oh, have I really always been this way? But yeah, being able to find that celebration in I was talking about that on a podcast that hasn't aired yet, but about, little things and just getting like super excited. Yeah, I did it. Yeah. Just celebrating that and being that goofy or however you choose, but that like actual physical, not going, oh yeah, I did a thing. Like, no, oh, that was exciting. I really did a thing. Yay. Like it is so much part of where I'm at now that I'm like, and I'm very expressive and I'm leaning into that too. That's a whole new thing of like going, being on video all the time helps me. That I'm like, oh, I'm an expressive human being. And oh, I've always been this way. And oh, that voice inside my head, which isn't mine, it's my mother's, that says, oh, you're not supposed to be that. People don't want you to do that. And I'm just like, yeah. And actually now as an adult, people are like, oh, so endearing that you get excited about that stuff. And people are like, I love that you're just you. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm tired of not doing it. Like just being me is good. I'm good.
Exactly. Yeah. Being me is good.
Yep.
Now, like anyone who's watching, being me is good. To really, just take that into you. Just breathe it in. Yeah. Yes, being me is good.
Yes, it is.
And high five. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful, I think this is sort of coming together. That's the power of healing. And the other day someone said to me, so two things. I'm learning now, I'm still healing, but I'm also now creating my life because I want to change the energy. And also, I went to a meditation with a Buddhist psychologist, First Nations here person, and he said, don't always use journey, but you can always use I'm on a path.
Yeah, path. Yeah.
On a path. So these sometimes just these little subtleties, you can stay with journey, path, healing, creative, but then you find, as you said, your own way. Your own way being me is good.
Yes, it is. Yes, yes, it is.
Love it. How would you like to and also how people can contact you? Or I'm going to put everything in the notes, in the description.
So people can always reach out to me. I am mostly on Facebook.
Okay.
Is the easiest place if they want to DM me. But you can always find my podcast. It's Flow Rising, and everywhere. It doesn't matter what social media, TikTok, whatever. It's Flow Rising and the number 1.
Okay.
At Flow Rising and the number 1, and you'll find me. Search it, find me. People can always, I mean, my email's everywhere. That is not a Flow Rising email, but I will give it to you. It's
we'll pop it in the description. Yeah,
we'll pop it in. But they can always email me directly at megan@beexcellent.biz. And I love conversations. I love to talk to people. And again, I'm just that kind of human and I'm always looking for guests on my own podcast. Yep. So anybody who, feels like, hey, I'd love to share my story, or I'd love to talk about what I'm doing, my healing journey, I'm always open to seeing if it's a good fit with people. So that's kind of the ways that people can find me. And I think, the most important thing I always tell people when it comes to healing is it's your personal journey. It's your personal path. And by sharing it in the ways that work for you, you are helping every other human, no matter where they are in their own healing. You are helping them by having that courage to share it with a friend, share it in public, share it in private. It's okay. That speaking it to the world actually does a lot for you, but it does a lot for everybody too. It does help.
No, and I agree with you, and it does, because that has that rippling effect, that energetic effect. And also I'd like to say, also for me, ending, thank you, Megan, it was wonderful. But what I'd also like to say to anyone who is thinking of wanting to be on the podcast with Megan, or even myself, but Megan, you hold space beautifully. So if someone is wanting to do it but feels anxious or has never done it before, this might be the time you might feel safe to do it. Megan has interviewed me, and we've had a chat, I should say. You hold space beautifully, and I'm sure, I'm going to say, because I do this, if at the end I say to women too, if you've overshared, we don't upload it. So, if you're feeling you want to do this, Megan is your person. And you'll feel, once you get the courage to do it, it's like this, again, what did you say? Celebration of healing. Mm-hmm. And it's about celebrating. You'll go, yes, I've done it. Yes.
Yeah. It's always a great time. I love connecting with people. So
yeah. And you can feel it. And that's, again, that safe container, that loving container. Thank you again, Megan. Thank you everyone for watching. Any comments, being triggered, do go and, get support. You're not alone. And any comments, please put them there, and one of us will respond. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.